A man who survived Raccoon City, who stopped bioterror attacks on a global scale, who has fought things that should have been impossible to kill. And right now, he might be dying. Not from a bullet, not from a monster, from something that was already inside him. Something that's been waiting for years. Today, we're breaking down everything we know about Raccoon City Syndrome, the virus hidden inside. Leon Kennedy, how it works, how it kills, and just how close he might already be to the point of no return. When Raccoon City was destroyed in 1998, the world was told it was over. The T-virus outbreak had been contained. Umbrella was exposed. The incident was sealed into classified records and quietly buried. But science doesn't care about official narratives, because for some survivors, the virus never left. Not in the way it usually worked. Not the rapid, violent mutation that turned victims into monsters within hours. This was something different, something quieter. Trace amounts of the T-virus, residual fragments that slipped through the immune system's defenses and embedded themselves deep in soft tissue and blood. They didn't cause symptoms. They didn't transform the host. They just waited, slowly mutating, slowly adapting, learning the body they were hiding inside. Researchers at the Roadsill Chronic Care Center were the ones who eventually connected the dots, tracking a cluster of Raccoon City survivors who all developed the same inexplicable condition years after the incident. What they documented became known as Raccoon City Syndrome, a latent onset illness, a delayed death sentence written in the T-virus's own genetic code, and 6 confirmed survivors have already died from it. Leon Kennedy was in Raccoon City. So how exactly does a virus stay hidden for over 2 decades and then suddenly become a death sentence? The answer is in the progression. 4 stages, each one more severe than the last. And once you reach stage 2, the clock starts moving fast. Stage 0 is called the Dormant phase, and it's the most dangerous phase precisely because you can't detect it. The virus exists in trace amounts throughout the body. It's inactive, kept suppressed by a specific set of antibodies the immune system produces in response to T-virus exposure. Blood tests come back clean. Medical exams find nothing. The carrier has no idea anything is wrong. But underneath that silence, the virus is working. Every cycle, it mutates slightly, testing the antibody response, finding gaps, building resistance. It isn't spreading. It isn't attacking. It's adapting. And it has all the time in the world. Stage 1 is called activation, and this is when the mask comes off. The virus has finally mutated, enough to start breaking through the antibody suppression, and the first thing that appears is visible. Dark, bruise-like marks on the skin. They start small, easy to dismiss as fatigue, an old injury, a skin condition, but they're not any of those things. Alongside those marks comes the fatigue, persistent, heavy, the chewed kind that doesn't go away with rest. A cough settles in, a general physical discomfort the body just can't shake. These aren't dramatic symptoms, and that's exactly what makes them so dangerous. They're easy to push through, easy to ignore, but internally, the virus is anything but quiet. Viral activity in the bloodstream is accelerating. The infection is preparing to go deeper. Stage 2 is called the development stage, and this is where Raccoon City Syndrome stops being manageable. The dark skin markings that started small begin to spread. They grow larger, darker, more defined, and the tissue beneath them goes numb. That numbness isn't just discomfort. It signals nerve damage. The virus has moved beyond the bloodstream and into major organs. And then comes the symptom that leaves no room for denial, hematemesis, the vomiting of blood. Internal damage has become severe enough to surface. Vital systems are compromised. The body can no longer compensate. At this stage, hospitalization isn't optional. It's necessary. And survival without a cure is essentially impossible. The terminal stage is the end. The immune system has completely collapsed. Viral mutation has peaked. Organ failure accelerates across multiple systems simultaneously. The dark markings spread across nearly the entire body. Pain becomes constant. Even basic movement becomes a struggle. The vomiting of blood becomes uncontrollable, a sign that the internal damage is beyond repair. And once the terminal stage fully manifests, most patients don't last more than 1 to 2 hours. That's not a slow decline. That's a countdown. What began as invisible trace amounts of a virus, dormant in the body for possibly decades, ends in complete systemic collapse, a consequence of one night in a city that no longer exists. So where does Leon Kennedy fall inside this progression? Based on what the trailer shows us, he is no longer in the safe zone. The visible markings on his hand alone confirm he has passed stage 0 entirely. Dormant carriers show no physical symptoms whatsoever, and Leon clearly does. Those dark, vein-like patterns emerging across his skin are fully consistent with stage 1 activation, the phase where the virus has broken through immune suppression and begun surfacing in the body. Add to that the exhaustion visible in almost every scene he appears in. The physical strain, the urgency in his movement, the sense of a man forcing his body to keep going when it's telling him to stop, but he hasn't crossed into stage 2. Not yet. There's no evidence of widespread marking across his full body. No sign of the nerve numbness stage 2 brings. And critically, no hematemesis, no blood. The most severe stage 2 symptoms simply aren't present, which puts Leon at a very specific and very dangerous point. Late stage 1, possibly the very beginning of stage 2. The transition window. And here's why that matters. This is the most critical moment in the entire infection timeline. Before stage 2 fully sets in, a cure is still theoretically possible. The virus is active. Yes, but it hasn't yet destroyed enough organ function to make treatment impossible. There is still a window, but that window is closing. Once the infection crosses deeper into stage 2, progression doesn't slow down, it accelerates. The body loses ground faster, the options narrow, and the virus moves toward the terminal phase with almost nothing standing in its way. Leon isn't at the start of this story. He isn't at the end. He's right in the middle, the exact point where the fight is still winnable, but where every second of hesitation costs him. A man who has spent his entire career racing against time to save other people is now racing against the clock to save himself. Raccoon City was supposed to be a closed chapter. The bombs fell, the city burned, the world moved on. But the T-virus doesn't close chapters. It writes them across every survivor who walked out of that city thinking they were free. 6 of those survivors are already gone. Leon Kennedy may be next, unless he finds a way to stop something that's been living inside him for over 2 decades. The infection has started, the progression is real, and the question Resident Evil 9 is asking isn't just whether Leon can save the world, it's whether he can save himself. If you want to understand everything that brought Leon to this point, click the video on screen now for a complete breakdown of his full story before Resident Evil 9. I'll see you there.